asshole.
Hi, welcome to Taco Cast. I'm Will.
I'm Crystal, and you're our audience on this lovely Sunday. Oh my gosh, my husband. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? I'm sure. What's with the face?
Yeah.
So typically, this is the point in our segment where Will usually asks me what we're talking about today, and I'm like, I haven't prepared anything, whatever, and then we talk about pumpkins, and then, we leave. Today,
What are we talking about today?
So today, actually, what we're going to talk about is something that I'm sure you guys have probably seen. You've all seen those memes floating around Instagram and Facebook about how everybody's on unemployment, nobody wants to work.
All social media.
Yeah, all social media.
I've seen it on everything. Reddit. It's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's everywhere.
So what we're actually going to talk about today is we're going to talk about where we're actually at in the U.S. For unemployment numbers, and we're going to talk about the fact that there's actually multiple measures of unemployment and workforce participation. We're going to go over what those mean, and I'm going to complain about some stuff. So that's going to work out well.
So it's pretty much a normal episode.
Yeah, except for I've actually done research.
And we're gonna put a lot of links in the video description,
mm-hmm.
so you can check the data and the information yourself. The unemployment numbers of today here at the end of July 2021, and what are the real numbers, and what is the real conversation that we should be having that we're not having here in America. And memes are what's started off. People like, hey, I can make a meme to make fun of them, or I can make a meme to make fun of them, in which divides us, and divide and conquer. It's basically what we end up doing in this world. So go ahead.
Yeah. So you may not be aware, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually puts out press releases fairly regularly that lets people know the state of unemployment and employment health in the United States. But there's multiple different things that they measure. There's just plain unemployment, how many people aren't working, who could be working, but there's a lot of other factors. And you may not know some of these factors because they're not brought up frequently. We live in a society nowadays that communicates based on memes, and I can't really shit on that because I do it, so, whatever. But there's no information behind it, and a lot of people aren't discussing all of these numbers. There's, like I said, just base unemployment. There is workforce participation. There is a lot of people, when you think about unemployment, they think about, just how many people aren't working. But what you don't think about when we're discussing these factors is that there's a number of people in our society who can't work.
Right.
Actual toddlers. They're not going out and clocking in and,
We've tried to get our son to get a job, but right now his job is to color with crayons,
and he's nailing it.
Yeah,
he's doing good.
Knocking it right out of the park.
Yeah, but we've got the elderly, we've got the infirm, we've got the sick. Our society has a number of people in it who physically or mentally cannot work. So, when somebody says, oh, half the people in this country aren't working, well, here's the thing, they might be right, but it's not as bad as it sounds. Because if you've got, if 20% of your population, and these are not the hard numbers, I'm just throwing these out for the purpose of discussion. If 20% of your population are children, and 20% of your population are the elderly and the infirm, well, there's 40% of your population right there that can't be working. So if you say half the people aren't working, well, of course not. Why would you want them to? So, and that's actually kind of important. When you're looking at these numbers, you can't just look at hard numbers. There's a variety of factors to come into play. And like I said, we'll discuss those more in depth. But so the memes that we were talking about, Will, you've seen them floating around, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And how did they generally come across to you?
Negative, misleading, skewed to make people want to believe or get the people outraged. But that's in the generally, it's like the meme like the one Karen can't find a job right now, but then there's also then they have the other Karen memes where Karen can't she can't go to work because she's getting an extra $300 to sit on her ass, and not right. It's not technically right. It's not right in a lot of different ways. We're going to cover that here in a little bit. But
Well, that's a really good point, especially in the fact that we have a service based economy, and in the press release that we're going to link to you, it even specifies that the big increases that we've seen in employment rates are in the service industry, entertainment, hospitality. We have a service industry driven economy. And I'm sure that people will take issue with that, but it's just freaking true.
That's the facts, ladies and gentlemen.
We go out to eat very frequently, and we have gas stations, and our economy is based on it chugs along because people go into work and they go down to the local Conoco and they go to the McDonald's, and those are the people that are really driving our society forward.
We are not a manufacturing society anymore. We are a customer service society.
Yeah. And, it's probably a different conversation whether or not there's merits to that or not, but it's just the situation we find ourselves in now. But those memes, they're designed to make you upset. They're designed to make you think that person is doing nothing and I'm doing everything. They're designed to make you feel like you're being taken advantage of. That's 100% why they're designed. And sometimes they're valid. Almost everybody you talk to, they've got a story about, their uncle knows a guy who has been on unemployment for like 57 years, And if you would hear that and you would believe it, because you can't actually be on unemployment for 57 years, it times out after a while, it's like 26 weeks or something like that. You hit the end and the state's like, oh, sorry, hope you find a job, bye. There's, you can't
some
actually.
states are a lot less than that.
You can't actually be on it forever. But if you would hear that, especially from somebody that you trust, you would feel upset and taken advantage of, and that's a valid feeling. I would feel that way too.
The case of what, like, the XYZ has a pizza place, and it puts up an ad, and says, I can't find people who will come in and work here, and I'm willing to hire managers and pay them $14 an hour. But
that was a legitimate ad, by the way.
Yeah.
We're leaving the name of the place out.
But no one wants to work because they're getting that extra $300 in unemployment.
But what they leave out is that literally, 10 minutes down the road, there's another employer who is hiring for a better position that starts at $15 an hour, and you get health benefits and retirement. So
where do you think that employee's going? Are they going to go work for that pizza place for $14 an hour as management or hourly employee? Or do you think they're going to go down the street to that other company where there's potential for growth and they get benefits and they get more money? Let me think about that. Well, it's really easy to decide, and at the same time also, if I have a friend who has a small mom and pop restaurant, and he had two positions that he needed to fill. One is a line cook, and one as a waitress, customer service, working the counter and stuff like that. He had 50 applicants for two positions. The two positions he posted, he had 50 applicants the day he posted it. Now, wait a minute. All those people out there who are sucking that $300 in unemployment down, wait a minute, I thought they didn't want to work. Why is he getting 50 applicants for two jobs that he posted? Because people want to work. It's the opposite of the meme. The meme says people are just sucking that $300 down and don't want to work. But it's not true. They're sure I can't say it's not true anywhere, but there's probably a small isolation.
There's always going to be someone. Yeah, I've had a job in some form or another since I was 13 years old, right?
I can't finally retire.
You're essentially expected to work for 50 years, retire, and then die, hopefully, so that you can't, cash in your retirement. Yeah, it's okay to be tired of that system.
On a side note, though, along with that, I read a very interesting study that was done on people who retire at the age of, if they retire by the age of 65, that most, a large majority, and it was like in really high percentage though, of people who die within 10 years of actual retirement, they just stop doing anything, altogether, and their mind, their body, everything. I worked myself to death basically, so I could retire, and now I've retired. I have nothing left to do.
Well, and it's hard, and
I mean, they don't. In a lot of cases, I'm guessing they don't consciously say about him dead. Gone.
A lot of places don't offer retirement benefits. And
not anymore.
You can't live on Social
Security.
Security.
The 401ks are gone.
Yeah, you can't live on Social Security. So it's.
Trust me, you don't want to try. And I feel sorry for anybody out there who has to live and survive on Social Security benefits. It's going to be really hard. But anyway, so let's talk about the unemployment numbers. What are the real numbers out there say right now?
So we actually have it pulled up, the press release from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and our actual.
Now, is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, does that count federal and state information, or is it just one or the other?
You can actually get information on unemployment either from here, and then this is national. They do have a state. You can go to your state stuff too. Pretty much when you're getting your stats, though, go to something that ends in .gov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always a good rule.
So, in the press release, which is lengthy, so we're not going to go over the whole entire thing. Our numbers are still higher than they were nationally, but not by much. We're higher. So
there is, but also there's a section of society that they don't count in these statistics at all. Those who they became unemployed, they maxed out their benefits for unemployment benefits, and they just stopped looking.
So they refer to that they have various ways that they refer to that. You've got where are we at?
Is unemployment higher now after COVID, or is it
unemployment is still higher than it was nationally in COVID, but some places like our state, we're back to normal. We're 1 percentage point above where we were pre-COVID. Some states, there was a really popular meme that was going around about Kentucky. Same thing. Kentucky is almost back to normal, and Kentucky's workforce participation rate is back to normal.
What does that mean, workforce participation rate?
Workforce participation rate. Actually, let me get the official definition, because I will butcher it. I will absolutely butcher it. Okay, so the workforce participation rate is the number of people in the labor force as a percentage of the civilian non-institution population. So that is the number of people that are working or actively looking for work.
Okay.
So, and that is basically unchanged. It has actually stayed pretty steady for the last couple of years. So, like I said, nationally, we're about 2 percentage points above where we were on unemployment pre-COVID. But one of the other things to look at is when you're discussing statistics like this, is you have seasonal variation. There's a lot of people who do seasonal work, and they're going to be unemployed during certain months. So it's a little bit sketchy to say pre-COVID and post-COVID, because then you're comparing a February statistic to a June statistic.
You're definitely comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah. Now, personally, I would think that we should wait until next February before we make a hard decision one way or the other where we're at. The other thing to keep in mind is part of the reason why they were giving people additional money while they were on unemployment is to keep people home. That was the reason to do that. Was because you wanted people. Unemployment can't pay your bills.
No, so. What I think we should start with. When somebody goes on unemployment, how much do they get? Do they get their full wages that they were making before?
No.
Do they get 10% of their wages?
I
What is it?
believe it's 33% is what you
So
get.
you give them an extra $300 that they already paid into a system for when they're unemployed
Yeah.
for a short term, because again you get 26 weeks,
Mhm.
something like that of unemployment. If you give them $300 extra, where'd that money come from? Oh, did they pay that in? Did they?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Well,
did the national debt go up because of it?
Though the national debt constantly goes up.
We're in trillions in debt now.
Most people don't know this, but the U.S. has declared bankruptcy in the past.
They have?
They have twice, I
Was
believe.
it because of unemployment?
No.
Was it because of COVID?
Mm-mm.
Because we gave citizens stimulus checks?
Mm-mm. No, it's just because the government.
Oh,
likes to-
is it because we spent millions of dollars on hammers and toilet seats? I bet you that had something to do with it.
Actually, it was before the hammers and toilet seats thing.
I was talking to a guy that worked with Uncle Darwin, and he works for he's a purchasing agent for the government, and they needed 1,200 crescent wrenches, and they could have went down to the local hardware store and bought these 1,200 crescent wrenches through like Ace Hardware, but instead the government, in their infinite wisdom, went to the company, Crescent Wrench Company, and said, "Can you build us a crescent wrench? And we need 1,200 of these." And they're like, "What? The ones we already have don't work. They're not what you need." They're like, "Oh, the ones you make now that you can buy in the hardware store, perfect. We just need 1,200 of them." So they purposely had them retool the entire factory and recast and make a whole brand new one. And one side it says Crescent Wrench, and the other side it says U.S. government on it. That's the only difference. It's in the freaking handle. It's cast into the actual metal.
Is there such a rampant problem with crescent wrench theft in the U.S. that the government has to label them as government crescent wrench?
There was nothing wrong with it, but it cost them millions and millions of dollars to retool this, and the cost of the contract just to get 1,200 crescent wrenches, and then once the job was done, they didn't need the wrenches anymore. And it's like, so I think he said the whole thing cost like $6.5 million for 1,200 crescent wrenches, and then once they were done, they're like, "Thank you." And now they got 1,200 crescent wrenches sitting in a warehouse that they used for one job, and that's it. And his job is to go out and actually find these companies and say, "Now let's do this." But that's how you go into national debt of trillions of dollars. I mean, you spend money like that constantly.
I don't think that I'm happier for having known that.
Yeah, right.
That didn't
Okay.
that didn't make me happy. I'm not a happy person.
Think about where we live. I mean, the rampant waste of money out there is everywhere. I mean, we built that giant freaking bus lot out there for taking workers to out to the job sites.
I think that's a good idea.
And what do you ever wonder what happened to all those buses?
No, having all those buses.
They're still out there. They just stopped using them because they realized, what would be easier? We buy a bunch of Ford Chevy vans, and we put 3 of those on the road as opposed to one bus. So they bought all these vans, and they started using van ride share out to the job sites. Why? Why do you have to have more vehicles on the road versus the bus? They're taking them to the same fucking place. It's just like, why? Why? And those buses are specially made just to carry people, and they're painted and everything just for one purpose. And they're all still sitting out there, just rotting away. I'm like, the parking lot's empty. because they don't need the giant parking lot, and the buildings anymore, because there's not one place for people to go to catch the van. The van now comes to you. So maybe if you get that job out there, you can waste money too.
Oh, I love wasting money. Do you know how I am about money?
So unemployment.
So our unemployment rates, they're going to be variable. So this is actually what this is what Will and I wanted to bring to you guys today. Is when you guys see these memes that come across, we want you to go to your local site and verify these numbers, because while nationally we are still 2 percentage points above. Also, I'm going to back up a little bit. When someone gives you, when one of these comes across your desktop and it says, 2 million, 5 million, 100,000, or whatever, we have millions of people in our country.
300 million plus, is there?
Look at the percentages. Don't look at the actual hard numbers. And this is actually a good thing to keep in mind when anybody.
Why not look at the actual hard numbers?
Well, yes, but because people use those big numbers to make it sound like it's a huge problem. They're like, oh my God, 2 million people are X. And you're just like, oh my God, 2 million people are X? But then you look it up and you see that, 1.9 people were X last year. And you're like, well, that's just like 0.1% increase. That's not a big thing, right? So people will use big numbers to make it sound like problems are bigger. Conversely, people will use big percentages when the actual numbers are small. A big one that happens is, say an event happens one time out of every 100,000, okay? Right? That's how often event Y happens. All right, one time out of 100,000. And then in this particular group, it happened 2 times out of 100,000. That's not actually all that significant, right? But if they want you to change your behavior, they will come to you and say, there's been a 100% increase in this. And you're going to be like, oh shit, 100% increase? That's awful. But then you go in and you're like, wait, it's just one extra time. That could just be a normal variance in the data pool. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Keep that in mind when you're evaluating information. Look at the hard numbers, and when the hard numbers are huge, look at the actual percentages.
It's like the news story, California, about inmates who were filing unemployment benefits, and they said it was rampant abuse. It was on every major news outlet in California, during COVID, and it turned out that it was 6 people total out of like almost 7 million. But they blew it so out of proportion. Yeah, any kind of abuse is wrong, to the system, and there's always going to be people who will abuse the system and use it to get something that they're not entitled to. There's always going to be that, but 6 people out of millions of when the state of California was shut down because the COVID at its high
Yeah,
point.
that's not a rampant problem.
No, but you better believe it's a rampant problem, and they need to crack down. And then these legislators, were constantly bombarded by the news outlets. What are you doing about this problem? How are you going to fix this problem? Over and over again, they got to the point where they were like, okay, we should probably look into this. We should probably crack down on this, and maybe pass some new legislation. For what? There's 6 people out of the millions of claims.
And it's already illegal. There's no new legislation that would be required because that's already not a thing that you're supposed to be able to do.
Right. And at the same time, what the media does though is they take these things and they run with them. Because you gotta, what sells the evening news and the advertising spaces, on the evening news and the newspapers, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and scandals. That's what sells. You've got to have something that draws people in and gets them angry. So they'll tune in to your 5 o'clock newscast, or the anchor who investigates for you. I love that. Investigative journalism.
Yeah, investigative journalism. Here's an investigative journalist.
It's true.
Our economic situation is doing much better than some people have you believe. There are still some states that are suffering, but that's in the couple of examples that I had looked into. It's actually way more complex. There's not just one thing. Jobs have moved out of those states. There's several states that used to rely very heavily on manufacturing, and those manufacturing plants have moved. Um, Nothing is ever so simple as this problem is just caused by this. But what we'd like you to do, so like we said, our economic situation as a country is actually improving, and we'll link you the press release. You can look that up. There's a couple of other links we're going to provide you. You can use those also. But we really want to encourage you when you see these things to check your individual state statistics and see how you as a state are doing. Don't just accept them wholesale, because chances are,
If you do, someone's trying to feed you a giant blank sandwich.
and here's another point of advice. When you hear somebody who says, I know so and so and they are scamming the system, well, why didn't you report them?
Right? I hear that one all the time, especially about welfare. Yeah, I know so and so who's been scamming the system for 3 generations, now, and I'm like, why didn't you call the 1-800 number and report them?
Mm-hmm.
If you know this to be factual information, why haven't you reported them? Well, they're not going to do anything. That's always the same answer. They're not going to do anything about it. You're damn right. They're not going to do anything about it at all if you don't report it.
Yeah, it's easy to report. They make reporting easy. It's anonymous.
Yep, online, call. There's so many ways to report abuse out there. And if you find actual real abuse in certain situations when it comes to the government itself, you can actually be compensated for actually tipping them off to abuse well, not that that deal with the crescent wrenches. That was the government themselves. We decided to waste your money that way. But if you actually turn in, and you're the tipster who actually helps clear up a lot of fraud, you can be rewarded for it.
Mm-hmm.
The tip lines are out there for everything.
Yeah.
You name it.
So if you come across somebody who says that, or if you yourself know somebody who is gaming the system, it can be reported. And you're right, they don't necessarily report right away. They will eventually investigate every single report.
They have to.
It's the law.
Yeah. I mean, the wheels of justice sometimes seem to move very slowly.
Which is a good thing, because you'd rather have them move slowly and avoid catching the innocent than you would have them move quickly.
Right. I mean, I don't want to be steamrolled over by, the government. I don't think anybody does, do they? And if you're down below, tell us, what do you think should happen, in this situation? And when it comes to the real unemployment, and numbers out there, and the those who spread lies and rumors about it, is it just their First Amendment right to say whatever they want? Or should we actually be people be held accountable for what they do and the misinformation that they share?
That's a really good point. And it's a really good question, especially when you look at, is somebody saying something that's not true on purpose?
Yeah.
Or are they saying something that's not true because they didn't know any better? Are they saying something that's not true because they have bad data? It happens all of the time. You have bad data. Something skewed your data pool, and should there be consequences? Should those consequences just be social? That's how I lean. But I understand that it's absolutely exhausting to fight bad information because there's just so much of it. You just, as a single person, you just can't. You can't. But
well, you definitely can't if you give up and don't try.
This is also true. But yeah, should they be? I lean towards the idea that they shouldn't be subject to official repercussions, right? If you're out there and you turn around and say, whatever, and you're being deliberately, and you're spreading misinformation deliberately, I don't think that you should be able to be arrested. I do believe that there are social repercussions, such as you have lied, People have now found out that you've lied, and now they don't give a shit about you anymore as a human being. You know, your brand tanks or whatever. Like, that's a social repercussion, and that's 100% okay. You know, if you find out somebody's lying about something, which has happened before, it has happened in the gaming community. You know, people have lied about competitors and whatnot. Well, now people find out that you lied. They don't want to watch your streams anymore. That's just you suffering the repercussions of being a shit human.
Okay. I got nothing to add to that.
Okay,
I mean,
so
it's true. I mean, people are biased, to what they want to believe.
they are. I am. Everybody is. I think that it's really, really important to not just verify information when we see something and we're like, that seems hinky. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
But also, we should verify information when we see something and we're like, fuck yeah, that's 100% right. When we are 100% behind something, we should also stop and say, is it though? We should verify our own biases.
I think in a lot of ways, the way the world moves today, and that the speed it's moving, and technology is moving along with it, it's hard to be able to stop and fact check everything that you're doing. And
Oh,
those
absolutely.
those
It absolutely
companies
is.
who step in like Facebook, and stuff like that, and they try to fact check things, and all they're doing is just running that information against a known database.
And they
It
catch
doesn't make sure
so
it's
much
right
shit.
or wrong.
Yeah, they catch so much shit. The Facebook fact checkers, they catch so much actual information and bad information.
Yeah.
And then you get that weird warning. It's like, you posted about coronavirus. Are you sure you wanted to? Well, I mean, I was posting the link to the CDC, but go off, Facebook.
Well, I mean, that happened to us here on YouTube. Every time, and their algorithm will catch this, that we mentioned the word COVID in this actual stream, and it will run because YouTube has a self-learning software program that listens and records every word that we say. All right, and then it runs that information versus the actual known information. So if we said COVID-19, you can catch it from strawberry, jam.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And the way to get rid of COVID-19 is you need to eat more grape jelly. So now it's going to run that against the system.
So
But with that, it's not an actual person checking. It's a computer software.
it's Skynet, Bill.
It's Skynet. I don't think anybody's going to get that reference, though.
I'm going to be very disappointed in all of you if no one got that reference. Every single one, I'm very disappointed. I'm going to need to know that you all understood that reference.
Yes, please put down in the comment section that you got that reference, Skynet.
Anyways.
So the unemployment numbers are about where they were prior to COVID-19.
We're still high, but we're close. We're close to where we were beforehand.
And a lot of the numbers that people are talking about in the media do not take into the seasonality of different types of employment.
Mm-hmm.
The people who you see on the news saying that they can't find people to work because they're getting an extra $300 a month, and unemployment benefits, or maybe they need to reevaluate what they're actually paying their employees and value that they actually place on it. And if you can't be competitive in your market, maybe that's time for you to shut your doors.
Harsh, but true.
Yeah, I mean, it's like my friend who owns the restaurant. He pays his employees well above minimum wage because he wants quality employees. He wants people who want to be there. He's not looking for the person who just wants to piss off, make some gas money for the weekend so they can go out and party with their friends. He wants people who want to be there, and it translates to how many people come in his door every single day. Because when you get employees who want to be there, who are invested in what they do, yeah, they're making a paycheck, they're making a living, but he pays them more, so people come in there like, man, that was the best service I've ever had. That food was awesome, and they come back, and it just keeps on building and building and building. So much so, he's looking to have to open a second location this year. Because during COVID,
Nice.
he was killing it during COVID because he said, you know what, People can't come into my restaurant. I can't have that. There's not enough space outside to put up enough tables outside. I got to find a way to get people their food. So before DoorDash and Uber and all these stupid places for delivery of food, he said, "I'm going to do it." I mean, he kept every one of his employees on during the entire thing. He just said, "Okay," and he turned the entire restaurant into a staging area for the packaging. All right, these are the to-go boxes. These are the silverware, and then, so the waitresses, set everything up. So it kind of like an assembly line. So when it got cooked, it all got packaged, and then they went out and they delivered it all, and they gave away so many free meals to first responders. It's not even funny, but there's good people out there in this world, ladies and gentlemen. You just have to, the good people in this world are never going to seek the limelight. They're never going to be, recognized. For the large part, they're not going to be recognized by mainstream media. So, unemployment's not something that people would want to rely on.
No, you can't.
Nobody on unemployment is saving up their money and going to Cancun for the summer.
Mm-mm. Anyway,
is that it?
that's it.
Well,
We'll let you guys get back to your Sunday. I hope everybody has a great day. And next week is Gish.
what is Gish?
Gish is an international charity scavenger hunt, and it funds the charity Random Act. Look that up; it's awesome. And
Random Acts of Kindness.
yeah, actually, that's what it stands for, Random Act. And they have another one called Amok.
Yeah.
Anyways, we will see you next week, and I'll probably have something I'm gonna need you to do for Gish.
That you're gonna have people do?
I'm gonna have you guys do it.
What are they gonna do?
I have no idea. The list drops on Sunday. We'll know then.
Is this a Sunday?
I know, next Sunday.
Oh, it drops next Sunday. The list drops next Sunday, and you're gonna have those people out there watching
Mm-hmm.
do something. Is there something in for them?
Yes.
What do
You've
they
helped
get?
make the world a better place.
Ooh, nobody wants a better place in this world.